Welcome to the latest episode of the Hunter Baumgardt Sports Podcast. My name is Hunter Baumgardt, your host. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at HunterBeOnAir. Feel free to like the Facebook page as well, Hunter Baumgardt Sports. And remember, you can watch or listen to the podcast. You can watch on YouTube or listen on SoundCloud. Simply search Hunter Baumgardt Sports Podcast. Today, really excited to talk to one of Wisconsin's own sports anchors and reporters. He is George Balekji from NBC 15 in Madison, and you see him on there if you are in the Madison area, and you probably have heard the name before, maybe even on social media. You follow him at George Balekji, but either way, we're going to talk to him about all that's going on with the Wisconsin Badgers. Latest with the football team. Are they going to play Saturday against Michigan? Right now it looks to be on. We'll get the latest from him and just talk about how good can this team be. They're still going to be eligible if they play all the rest of their games for a Big Ten championship game. So can this team get there? What's going to be the biggest hurdle for them in their remaining schedule? Also, we'll talk about the Badgers basketball team. They're ranked 7th in the first top 25 rankings of the season. Do they deserve to be number 7 in the nation? We'll ask him as he is on the ground there in Madison. So, with no further ado, let's get to George Balekji. Joining me this week on the Hunter Baumgardt Sports Podcast, I'm happy to welcome George Balekji. He is a sports anchor and reporter at NBC 15 in Madison, and you can follow him on Twitter at George Balekji, on Twitter at George, and then Balekji. I want to make sure I get that right. George, really appreciate you joining me today and talking some Badgers football, basketball, and other topics and your career as well. Thanks so much.
Hey, Hunter, thanks for having me on, man. I was excited when you hit me up. I saw the lineup you've had in the past. You know, it's Brian Anderson, Lisa Salters. You had Zach Heilprin here from Madison. Mm-hmm. So I appreciate that you hold me to the same standards and you let me on the same podcast as those guys, because those are absolute studs in this industry.
Oh, absolutely. You're up there. So wanted to for sure get you on. And I know you're rooted in Madison and wanted to get all the, all the insight that we can get from you for these. Obviously the Badgers football team has had a crazy couple of weeks and they're, hopefully going to play on Saturday. So we'll get to that in a second. I first want to get to know you a little bit. Let the viewers kind of know about how you got to NBC 15 in Madison, kind of what route took you to Madison. And did you always want to get into sports TV?
Yeah, so I wanted to get into sports, just broadcasting in general, since I was about a junior in high school. I called in the springtime. My TV teacher came up to me and was like, "Hey, we need someone to do play-by-play for a baseball game." I'm like, all right, sounds good. And it was my high school against our in-town rival, Catholic rival school. I went to a public school, but it was a walk-off single, bottom of the 7th, hit by Nick Hoy, who was a year older than me. I'll never forget that play. And, I just erupted on air and I was like, this is absolutely so much fun to do. This is something, and this is like something I want to stick with. Then I go to the fall. I had to stop playing football midway through my high school career because I had so many concussions and it was just life. It wasn't really football. But so then it comes to fall time and I called a soccer game. And it was the same thing, my high school against DePaul Catholic, our in-town Catholic school. It goes to sudden death PKs and my classmate, Megan Leonard, hit the game-winning penalty kick. So it was Wayne Valley, my high school, scored a goal in the beginning. DePaul Catholic scored a goal in the last 5 minutes. Go to extra time, no goals. We go to PKs, still knotted up. Sudden death PKs. My classmate hits it, same thing. I erupt on air, and it was the same thing. I'm like, this is so much fun. And I think I kind of found something I'm good at because up to that point, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was only 16, 17 years old. I was thinking of going to business school and being a financial advisor, and I hate math and I'm bad at it. So that would not have worked out. So from that point on, I started gauging. I'm like, where can I go? Where would be the best place for me to go to really, get the experience I need and hone my craft? And so that took me to Seton Hall University. That was about 20, 30 minutes from where I grew up with 89.5 FM WSOU. So that's a heavy metal station. It's the only one in the New York City market. But the only time you don't hear heavy metal in WSOU throughout the week is when you hear sports programming. So stepped in there, worked with one of my best friends to this day, Clayton Collier. He was his sports director. I was his assistant sports director since we were about juniors on, so junior, senior years of college. When I was at Seton Hall as well, I became the executive producer, and I was a co-host for Pirate Sports Network and Pirate Television, so our student-run TV show. And then also Pirate Sports Network was through athletics as well. So just continuing to find those reps. And that's when I kind of found that, I like doing play-by-play and that was fun. I liked radio, but I think I was better at TV, the whole anchoring aspect and the reporting aspect. So that's when I kind of dove into that. And from that point on, for me, it was how many internships can I have? How much more can I just get hands-on experience? I think that was the most valuable thing that I did at Seton Hall. They're the core classes that coincide with your major and what you really want to concentrate on. But for me, what really helped was the internships. And of course, the location of Seton Hall University being 20 minutes from New York City. I worked for Westwood One Radio. I worked for the New York Giants. Those two experiences helped me land an internship with Fox Sports 1 out in Los Angeles, and also with the big help of the athletic director at the time, Pat Lyons at Seton Hall. He put in a good word for me and helped me out get a reference, which was huge. And then my senior year, I interned for HBO Real Sports. So I kind of had everything, where it was from radio to working every day with the NFL team. And that was for Odell Beckham's rookie season, which was really cool. Then from that point on, going out to Fox Sports 1, working with MLB Whip Around, and just learning from afar from Kevin Burkhardt and Chris Myers and CJ Nikowski and Frank Thomas and Pete Rose. I mean, that was really cool to be around. And then going into HBO Real Sports was, to me, what I compare it to is like the Harvard of storytelling, where there's a lot of good colleges out there. A lot of them are good, a lot of good networks. But you go to HBO Real Sports, where they put months and sometimes years of work into one piece that will go 15 to 20, maybe 30 minutes. You really got to see how they work. It really opened my eyes to storytelling. So once I graduated from Seton Hall in May of 2016, I kind of took the summer off. I worked odd jobs. I worked at Yes Network part-time, still delivered pizza after I graduated. And then after a few months of that, I was like, all right, dude, like start applying, because I took the summer off because I knew I was going to move. So I want to spend one last summer with my friends, my family, everything like that. So I applied to a job in Joplin, Missouri. I applied to about 40 jobs, heard back from none of them. I heard back from one, and it was Joplin, Missouri. I'm not the best with my geography, I guess, maps wise. So I saw Joplin, MO, and I assumed that was Montana. So I kid you not, on my cover letter, I put, hey, I'm interested in a job in Joplin, Montana. And I even looked up Joplin, Montana, population of like 2,000 people. And the only thing that comes up is a dirt road. And I was like, you know what, man? I'm like, their website, they cover a lot of sports. So like, I just applied before I really went in on their website. So lesson learned is like, make sure to really do your research and just know your states. But I was like, you know what, screw it. Like, I'll go there if it's a job. I want to do this and I want to give it a shot. So it turns out it was Joplin, Missouri. And I spent about 2 years, 8 months out there, and it was amazing. I covered D2 athletics between Pittsburgh State University and Missouri Southern, some really good JUCOs in the area, Crowder College, who has one of the top baseball and softball programs at a junior college level in the nation, NEO A&M, who's one of the top JUCO football programs. They have great baseball, softball as well, and men's basketball. So do all that, and I really found the love for high school sports as well. So after doing that for 2 years and 8 months, I started looking for a job, a little after my third winter there. And I knew that I wanted, because I did a basketball coaches show, and they were a really good D2 program, but, they'd only get so far in the national landscape. So every winter, like, my college basketball coverage would end around the first weekend of March Madness, because D1 starts a little later than D2. So in my head, I'm like, man, like, why is this happening? Like, I want to go cover like a national tournament. I want to cover March Madness. Like I did in Hall. And also football wise, I'm like, I want to cover big time football. So what I was looking for was just to go and move up to a market where I'm covering a good Power 5 program, and also maybe a blend of professional sports and local sports as well. And Madison checked all those boxes. And the big plus to that is I had a friend that went here. She always told me how amazing Madison was. I know how awesome the lifestyle is too. So literally checked all the boxes. And so what got me to Joplin was just, luck and one person giving me a chance. And when I was applying for my job here in Madison, I applied, 50, 60, maybe 70 stations, heard back from like 4. Only 2 of those I really liked and really wanted to consider. At Madison, everything lined up perfectly for me, and I could have been happier where I ended up.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you got a lot of great experiences. Going back to what you said about Fox Sports 1 and, Westwood One, what were some of the things that you did at those jobs? And specifically, working with, like you said, Kevin Burkhardt and other people, Frank Thomas, the people who are, so high in the industry and on those big shows and big calls. What was that learning like from them, and what were kind of your duties at those internships?
basically, as an intern for Westwood One, I'll start with what was a cool part too, learning from Scott Graham, who's the voice of NFL films.
Yeah. Okay.
And he'd be an in-studio guy for them. And then also Jason Horowitz, who does
Mm.
play-by-play for them, but is also an in-studio host. So just being around those guys and seeing how detail-oriented they are in their work whenever they come in, but also how good of guys they are. And that goes for honestly all the talent that I've ever been around. But for me, it just started out, I would just cut air checks. And for that would be cutting if Scott Graham's doing play-by-play, whenever he reads an on-air read, this was presented by Gatorade, let's say, this game or this part, this free throw. And so I would just start cutting that. And I just learned, how to find those easily, how to find those quickly. Because one of the first times I got chewed out when I was at Westwood One was, dude, you're spending this much time on this? Like, no, you got to get the sound bites, got to get them quick. Because for me, I was like, let me listen to the whole thing. Let me listen again. Let me find this. And no, you got to work fast, especially on a tight deadline. And so I learned from that part. And then by the end, I was helping them cut whatever they needed, helping out with Olympic coverage, helping out with March Madness coverage. So I was there for all of that. And then being around their on-air talent was, like I said before, just learning the little things that go into making them put together a great on-air product. And it was also really cool of just being behind the mic too, being behind the board and learning everything that goes into that. Because one of the best pieces of advice that Scott Graham gave me, he said, because he started as a news director actually.
Okay.
And then someone was sick for a week. He got to do sports and the rest is history for him. But what he told me was the most valuable thing you can do is learn everything that goes on behind the mic before you get in front of it. Because you realize everything that goes into it makes everyone's job easier, but also makes you realize what you have to do to make the on-air product great. So that's what I got to learn at Westwood. And the same thing went for Fox Sports One. At FS1, I was a PA for MLB Whip Around basically. So I was learning from, about 3, 4, 5 production assistants. I would get to sit in on our production meetings every afternoon too. Some of those, and the cool part, if I had time in my day, I would go sit in. So there'd be the production meetings and then there'd be the on-air talent meetings that would sit down with research and the coordinating producer too. So I would sit down with them and just to hear their thought process, the questions they ask, how they want to hit certain angles, what they want to talk about. And obviously for me, I was more of hanging on the coattails of, Kevin Burkhardt and Chris Myers, opposed to the ex-athletes, because when I say who I worked with, people are like, you were with Pete Rose. And I'm like, yeah, it was awesome. But I was with Kevin Burkhardt.
Right. Exactly. I'd be the same.
I was with KV. Right. And then people are like, that's an all-time hit king. And I'm like, I know, but get where I'm coming from.
Right.
So when it comes to that, though, just the same thing, just learning his preparation and just to see everything that goes in leading up to when they're on air. Because when they go on air, it's just like that, where they go on, they're so well prepared, they're so well, chemistry is so good. I don't want to say so well rehearsed because it's live TV, but the chemistry is so good that they just get rolling. And for them, it's nothing. So that was a really cool part of learning from those guys and learning from the coordinating producer. He's a Seton Hall alum too, and Bardia Sheree, really big help. And I think the biggest part too is a lot of those people are contacts I keep up with every day. I'll be watching FS1. I was watching the World Series coverage and I'll say, hey, I'll shoot someone a text like, hey, I saw this, you guys did great. And they say, thanks, means a lot. And they'll still text me a little bit like, how you been? It's not just a quick in and out. And I just think those relationships are really valuable and they still help me out to this day.
Absolutely. Every connection is big in this industry. Joining me on the Hunter Baumgardt Sports Podcast is George Balekji. You can find him at NBC 15 in Madison. I'm curious, so, you go to Madison and you're covering, obviously, bigger sports town, obviously Division I, Power 5 school in the Badgers. What are some of the things, it could be Badgers, it could be non-Badgers, just across the state. What are an event or two that you've been able to cover so far in your career that you're like, wow, I am, so lucky to be able to cover this event, or this is why I got into this career? Have there been a couple of those?
Yeah, I would say when Wisconsin hosted Michigan State in men's basketball, actually. Because I look at the away sideline and I see Tom Izzo, who is someone I grew up watching. And I just turned to some of my colleagues, my peers, my buddy Alec, who works at the ABC affiliate here. And I just go, dude, that's Tom Izzo. Right, let's go. This game's big. And that was big because it was a big upset that Wisconsin pulled off that week with losing Kobe King and all the off-court stuff they were dealing with. So that was one of those moments. then I'll go back to football. To me, that just jumped out. I don't think it's something I'll ever forget. It's like, because you see these guys on TV.
Yeah.
There's some games that I go to and you still see them in person and everything just kind of slows down. You're like, that is so-and-so in person. Like I've had it when I've gone to see games as a fan growing up, like when the Giants hosted New England Patriots in the preseason. I see Tom Brady and Randy Moss and I just like couldn't believe they were in front of me. So that's what Tom is. Football season to me is same. It was Wisconsin hosting Michigan in football game this year. They did the stripe out red and white across the stadium, absolutely blew them out. And just everything about that experience, seeing JT just absolutely go to work on the field too was a lot of fun. And that's when there was like a pinch me moment. But above all, I mean, I know to this day how lucky I am, and I may never be able to cover it again. Was going to the Rose Bowl to cover the Badgers against Oregon in Pasadena. And you hear it all the time, like bucket list item. You have to go here, you have to go there. Seriously, like your team doesn't have to be in the game, but if you go to the Rose Bowl, how beautiful it is here in Southern California in January, the way the Rose Bowl looks, how it sits with the mountains in the background, and just the stadium, how like just perfect and simple it is. It's just a simple bowl, one level goes down. The sounds is amazing. The fans are so passionate there, and all the pageantry around it, along with the Rose Parade. To me, the Rose Bowl, above all, is like the greatest thing I've ever covered.
Wow, that's awesome. And I've heard so many good things about it. For everybody who covers it or is a fan and goes there just raves about it and how just majestic it is, to be honest. Like you said, it doesn't even have to be your team that's playing there. It's still super cool. I do want to get into some specifics going on with the Badgers now, and just kind of talk about the football team, basketball team a little bit before I let you go. The football team, of course, has gone over a tumultuous couple of weeks after their big first win against Illinois. So as of now, the game is on against Michigan on Saturday night. What's the latest with the team that How do you think they're going to play coming off such, a long period of time that they weren't playing unexpectedly? What's the latest you can tell us?
Well, for the latest for them, when they originally got shut down, they were at 12 active cases on October 28th, I believe. There's so many dates. My brain's on that. Yeah, on October 28th, they had 12 active cases, 6 student athletes, 6 of the staff, including Paul Christ. As of recently, they at one point got up to 27 active cases. So it showed, day by day, just why they had to shut down. There were people questioning, you're not in the red. Why are you calling yourselves? Because Barry Alvarez and Chancellor Rebecca Blank said, we're not going to play this week against Nebraska that week. And then they called the following week against Purdue because they still had spiking numbers. At most 27 active cases. And the Big Ten, how they do their protocols out of population positivity rate. So total population is student athletes, coaches, staff, support staff. So from what I think on their roster, we don't know the exact number. It's 146 people. 27 out of 146 is astronomical, like a lot. And so it showed why they went into quarantine, why they had to shut down everything they had to. For now, there is just 5 active cases, and that was on November 9th. They started practicing Monday. They're a full go for Michigan. The question will be Graham Mertz. He passed. He passed his isolation period. He passed all his cardiac tests as well, chest, his heart rate. They do an ease in of workouts, conditioning. Like they don't let you just jump back into practice. And so the big thing for Graham Mertz, of course, is that the earliest a student athlete can return to a game is 21 days following their positive diagnosis. He would be able to return in time for the Michigan game, because that'll either be 22 days or 21 days, depending exactly when that starts. Paul Christ pointed out that he's going to start practicing either today, Wednesday, maybe start practicing early in the week. For them, they're just going to see how much practice he gets. Will he be ready to play? Because the big part too is you got to make sure he's all good. You don't want to risk injury by rushing someone back too. And the big part we're going to see, all we really know player-wise is that Graham Mertz tested positive. So out of all the student athletes they've had throughout that have tested positive, we don't know what position group has hit the hardest. We don't know if a position group is completely wiped out. We don't know who will be there, even on the sidelines outside of Paul Christ. And we won't know until Saturday, kickoff time, because UW can't share personal COVID numbers, who's testing positive, who's testing negative and all that. So we will find out game time. It'll be really interesting against Michigan of who they have out on the field. But for now, it's full go that Wisconsin football is finally getting returned.
Yeah, when a lot of Badgers fans are super excited for it, especially from what we saw in Graham Mertz in Game 1 against Illinois. How excited are you, even if he doesn't play this weekend, but let's say, he plays later in the year and just for the next year or two, how excited did that first game make you to watch Graham Mertz play as the Badgers quarterback?
For someone that's an outsider in Madison, I'll say, because, I've watched from afar the quarterback talent that has come through and who they've won with, but I haven't actually experienced, the struggles that fans here have seen. The joke is always, like Wisconsin, as long as they can run the ball, it doesn't matter. Because I was even looking back, the last time Wisconsin won at Michigan was 2010. In that game, their quarterback threw 0 touchdowns, 1 interception, but James White and Monty Ball went off. So that just encapsulates what Wisconsin football is, right? Run the heck out of the ball, which they've always done, have one of the best offensive lines and play defense. With Graham Mertz, what made that so exciting was, and it's been so long, you almost forgot, he went 20 for 21, 248 yards and 5 touchdowns. But it wasn't just the numbers he put up, it's how. He was throwing sideline to sideline. He would attack the seams. He can work the play action too. He was making reads, and he was mobile as he needed to be in the pocket too, and getting plenty of receivers involved. So with all that, it was so encouraging because you just see the little things from a redshirt freshman in his first actual start, making a jump. And damn it, when he throws a ball, he makes it look effortless. He really does, whether it's a deep ball, a far out, a 10-yard out, whatever it may be. And he was just getting everybody involved in with his accuracy and ball placement too. So it's been a long time coming for Wisconsin fans. They've always been talking, and it's been since I got here. I noticed it's been a lot more of that. They've got to the point where they're at the top of the Big Ten West. Now they want to take that next step and be a top-tier team in the Big Ten. And yes, that is Ohio State. And when you get a quarterback like Graham Mertz, that's what makes it happen, because this is a quarterback that can win games for you. The old adage for Wisconsin is have a game manager, have someone that won't lose a game for you. But now they have a quarterback that can win games for them. And I think that's the biggest plus. That's why the excitement here is so big. The hype was unreal because ever since he committed, ever since he signed, there was waiting. And now they have Graham. He shows up day one and he shows out, and a better Michigan defense. We'll see how good they play. They've been pretty bad the last 2 weeks, but this will be another test for him. So it's regardless of what he did 1 week to see him develop. And that's the thing too. It's like he can still develop and get better is what gets Wisconsin fans really excited about this.
Yeah, absolutely. And they have, of course, if they play all the rest of their games, they have 5 more games: Michigan, Northwestern, Minnesota, Indiana, and Iowa. They already have a win. Do you think they can run the table here and make it to the Big Ten championship game? Because all you need to win, or not all you need to play, is 6 games, if memory serves right, in order to compete in that Big Ten championship.
No, you're right. Yeah, 6 games is the minimum. The way the Big Ten has it, though, they built in protocol that if league average drops below 6 games, so across the entire Big Ten, then you have to play no less than 2 of the league average. So let's say everything goes like just really bad luck for Wisconsin. Everyone plays 5 games. They just need to play 3 games to get to the Big Ten championship. But everything stays as is. You're right. They have 6 games. They have 5 games remaining in front of them. I do believe they could run the table, especially with seeing how bad Minnesota's defense has been this year. Iowa is not the same Iowa team as last year. My biggest holdup, though, and it was a team I did see making a big jump, is Northwestern. They have the best linebacking core in the Big Ten. It's all upperclassmen, and that's been playing with each other since their day one at Northwestern. Pat Fitzgerald is still the head coach, and that was a team that was actually able to win games with one of the worst offenses I've ever seen in person last year. Well, Mike Bajakian comes in over from Boston College. That offense was averaging 30 points a game with one of the worst defenses in the country. And now you see with Peyton Ramsey at quarterback too, that Northwestern is refreshed. They're back to how they were 2 years ago and also being one of the top Big Ten programs. So that's my one game where I really – and it's in Evanston. Weird things happen in Evanston all the time with the Badgers.
Oh, yeah.
That's my one game where I will be hesitant to say that the Badgers can win that. But can they run the table with the talent that they have and the coaching that they have, the defense that they have, and get to the Big Ten championship game or else put themselves there? Yeah, for sure. I could see that happening.
Sure. George Balecki joining me on the Hunter Baumgardt Sports Podcast for just a couple of more minutes. He works at NBC 15 in Madison as a sports anchor and reporter. Going over to the basketball team for the Badgers quickly, they are ranked 7th to start the season. Do you think the Badgers truly are the 7th best team in NCAA Division I basketball to start this season?
Oh, yeah. They return all their key contributors last year except for Brevin Pritzel, but all of these guys are upperclassmen and seniors. The way Demetric Trice was playing to end the year, he had one of the best assist to turnover ratios in the country. Micah Potter in year 2 under Greg Gard's system, he'll know defense better, because that was a big part. He always said, he's like, the tough part is knowing defense, just what we have to do, what we need to do, whatever everyone's tendencies will be. So the chemistry aspect there. But on top of that, him as an offensive player, he said he's taken this offseason his diet more seriously. He's taken working out more seriously. And he's a big dude as is. So to take him with his physique more serious is a scary thought. Nate Reaver's there too. Aleem Ford and his growing confidence. And then Brad Davison, who is that classic, not the most athletic guy on the floor, but he's a coach on the floor.
Yeah.
Just typical dude to see on a Wisconsin team. For him growing as well. They have all the pieces in place. Tyler Wall, who was a super freshman for them last year, all the guys are saying that he has found his consistent shot this offseason, which is scary to think. And then even with their freshmen. So the only thing that would hold me up would be they have all these upperclassmen. They have Tyler Wall. And there's a drop-off of a lot of freshmen. They got a lot of damn good freshmen in this class. They have the Davis twins that are coming in. They're going to sign another big signing class today as we're recording this Wednesday, National Signing Day for college basketball.
Yeah.
What gets me with Wisconsin, and I love it, is that they return experience, they return athleticism. All 5 of their guys, when they have their starters on the floor, can shoot. Nate Reavers, Micah Potter, Aleem Ford, Demetric Trice, Brad Davison, all of them can shoot the ball. Tyler Wall can too if he's going to be the 6th man off the bench. So can the underclassmen, and they play defense. And what this team overcame last season, it brought them close. Everything that everyone's dealing with this offseason with the adversity of getting March canceled on them, it is a big deal, but it's almost like it's nothing compared to what they've overcome.
Exactly. That's a very good point. So do you expect them to repeat as Big Ten champions if the season's played?
That's a good question. With Iowa and Luka Garza returning, that's going to be their biggest hurdle to overcome.
Okay.
Illinois has AO and Coffee Cockburn too. But I do think, if you put them all on the floor, you put 5-on-5 there, I really would take the Badgers in this one to repeat as Big Ten champs. Like I said, they can shoot, they can defend, and return a hell of a lot of experience.
Yeah, for sure. He's George Balecki. You can find him on NBC 15 in Madison, sports anchor and reporter there. George, really appreciate the time today. Really great insight on the Badgers, and interesting to hear all the places you've worked so far in your career. And I'm sure the folks in Madison will be tuning in as soon as they can. So thanks so much, George.
Hunter, thanks so much, man. Appreciate you having me on and taking the time to talk to me too. It means a lot, dude.
Yeah, no problem at all. Take care. That is George Balekji. You can follow him on Twitter at George Balekji. Balekji spelled Balekji. He is a sports anchor and reporter at WMTV, NBC 15 in Madison. So you can see him there. Fascinating discussion, especially about his early career. Obviously I was fascinated by it, all the different places he's worked, Westwood One, Yes Network. I mean, the list, Fox Sports One, like he was talking about. So just some of the behind the scenes there. And then, of course, the Badgers. We have had just an interesting last couple of weeks with the Badgers football team having to pause because of COVID, but it sounds like they're on track to go out and play again on Saturday night against Michigan, which will be a whole lot of fun. And then the Badgers basketball team, he thinks they deserve for sure to be number 7 in the nation. And wow, what a turnaround the last couple of years for the Badgers, and getting that Big Ten regular season championship last year before the season was shut down. They're looking to repeat. And like he said, Iowa could be their biggest competitor. So really fascinating things from George, and I appreciate his time here today, and I hope you enjoyed the podcast as much as I did, and hearing about his career and all the different things with the Badgers as well. Thanks so much for watching or listening. Remember, you can watch on YouTube or listen on SoundCloud. Simply search Hunter Baumgardt Sports Podcast. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at HunterBOnAir. Feel free to like the Facebook page as well, Hunter Baumgardt Sports. This weekend, the Packers face the Jacksonville Jaguars at noon on Fox on Sunday. Hopefully going to 7-2. They should. Jaguars are awful, 1-7. So I think they got a backup QB playing as well. So they should be able to roll pretty good in that one. And then obviously, they won last week against the 49ers, and then they got the Colts, which should be an interesting test. We'll talk about that coming up next week. But have a great rest of your week. Thanks so much for watching or listening. And as always, stay positive.